The International Criminal Court, ICC, has called on the three Sahel nations, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, not to exit the court. They warn that exiting the court is going to give these nations impunity to take over human rights of their citizens. That exiting this court will give these nations the impunity to carry out crimes against humanity on civilians. This statement was made yesterday, 1st of July 2026, when Niger added its voice to Burkina Faso and Mali that they are going to pull out of the ICC. The ICC warned that if they pull out from that court, it means that it is a green light for these nations to carry out crimes against humanity and to lead to actually take over their country and rule their country with high level of impunity. Now, the ICC failed to look at some key nations that are doing that before their nose. And with these nations, we are talking about Israel. We're also talking about Russia. We're also talking about the actions of the United States of America during the period of Saddam Hussein and right now to the period of Donald John Trump. Now, the United States of America is not a signatory to the ICC. Britain is not a signatory to the ICC. The ICC does not hold these leaders accountable because they say that these countries are not signatories to the ICC. Now, it is Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger that the ICC is even more concerned as far as human rights is concerned. Now, when we look at the trajectory or the issues surrounding human rights, one is tempted to ask the question: when children were unalive in Iran on the 28th of February 2026, when children were unalive by Tomahawk mixer, was it Burkina Faso? Was it Mali? Was it Niger that did that? When scores of civilians were unalive in Gaza by the Israeli military, children being unalive, is it Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger? Why is the court burnt on Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger? When Russia carried out massive operation against Ukraine on civilian population, is it Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger? When Ukraine carried out a counter on civilian population, is it Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger? The issue which is happening in Nigeria, why is the ICC quiet? The ICC as a court is afraid of those nations and looking at the other nations as a threat to humanity. Whereas if you look at the number of people being unalive on a regular basis by actions carried out by these bigger nations, you will ask the question, who should the ICC be more concerned with and why? It is now clear that the ICC was created to muscle African nations. The ICC was created to make African nations to belittle African nations. The ICC was created to take over the powers of African nations, because if the ICC indeed is living to its mission and its vision, then the ICC, the US would have been a signatory to the ICC. Then the British government would have been a signatory to the ICC. One of America's revered senator, Lindsey Graham, told a prosecutor at the ICC and a judge at the ICC that the ICC was created for Africa and Russia and not for America and Israel. And that tells you that if you are more concerned with humanity and the dignity of the human persons, you ask yourself, how many countries have Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger invaded as compared to the big boys that are being protected? And so, telling Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger that exiting from ICC is going to give them impunity I don't know how I can describe it. It's nonsense. Because the people who are more concerned on a regular basis, do you know how many people have been unalive as a result of strikes carried out in Iran or in Lebanon or in Israel or also in Iraq and Syria? The ICC is more concerned about Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. It is now clear that Lindsey Graham was right. Lindsey Graham was right. So the ICC should leave Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger alone, because these nations are fighting terrorism. And because